friends, this is Grace and welcome to my channel and welcome to layout number 3 for our homemade scrapbook kit. This is a layout based off of items that I pulled out from my stash, and it's also based off of a sketch from Scrapbook Generation. Don't remember which one it was, but I think it was a paid one. That's why I'm not showing you the sketch. It's a single page layout, and the idea is that you have these 3x3 papers and then you will create a quilt with that, and so that's going to be in the center of the layout. Now I am kind of making this sketch a little bit on my own, making it my own, that's what I'm trying to say, because I am adding a few more layers here and there, just because Scrapbook Generation sketches, they are more like the elements in their sketches goes through to the edges. While that's okay, I like my layouts to have some form of border, and so I am going to make it look that way. I am also, why am I moving those? I don't remember why I'm moving those, but I will use that blue pattern paper as my background. And as you can see, I did gut the whole thing because I know that I won't be using the inside of that. I'm just wanting a little peek of that paper to create a border around my page. And then I'm going to trim this yellow paper. I'm going to trim it 1/2 inch on one left side and one top side so that it will have a 1/4 inch on all fours, and then I'm going to adhere that to my paper. That way I have a beautiful border around my page, and it just seems like it grounds the page a little bit more than having the design go all the way to the edge. I don't know. Let me know in the description box below if you like having your elements go all the way to the edge, or if you're like me where a border just makes it look cleaner. So again, I have already cut the 3x3 papers, and this is really good as well because if you have scraps, or if you're working with multiple pattern papers and you want to get a little bit of sampling of all of them, this is a good design for that, because then you have a little bit of everything showing on your page. The only thing about this is that if you have a lot of pictures like I do, it's going to be a struggle because some of these papers won't show because of the photo block that I'm going to build. Another thing that I had to be really paying attention to was the direction of my papers. As you can see, I have this paper that have houses, and so I have to make sure that I am putting that in an angle, but it's still on the right angle, that it's not flipped on the other side. Another thing that I had to take into consideration was because I had created my border first, then all of these diagonal or the diamonds have to be cut one by one instead of just glued onto the yellow paper and then trimmed later on. I guess I could have done it the opposite way, where I started with the yellow paper and then just trimmed, and then once I added all of my strips, then adhered that to the blue paper. That would have been easier and faster, but I guess I wasn't thinking. I wanted to make sure that I build the background first. Another thing that I liked about this particular design is that because my papers are mostly double-sided, I was able to use a lot of the designs with just 3 papers that I'm working with. I think I had 3, maybe I had 4, but I was working with just a handful of papers versus having 6 or 7 of them. And now I'm into the sides. Now I realized as I was building it that the design is slanted. And I don't know why it's slanted, but it started to look a little wonky. And so for me to fix that, I'm going to create a border on each side, which is also good, but I don't know, I guess I should have pulled out my ruler because it was wonky. Not so much wonky. It's just that it wasn't an angle. I don't know if you can tell right now, but you can see from the way the yellow paper looks at this part of the video, especially the bottom one where I have all of the triangles fit in. It looks a little bit going, going up instead of it being straight. But that's all good. I mean, at the end of the day, when I put all my photos in there and then when I have all of my elements, it's not going to be too bad. So again, if you're going to recreate this sketch, make sure that you use a ruler right off the bat. And then also try to do the cardstock frame first and then add all of your papers and then put it on the blue background or whatever background that you're using, in order for you to eliminate the step of one by one marking your paper so that you can cut it at the right part so that it will work inside that yellow cardstock. And again, these are 3x3 papers. So they, and then of course, the triangles were just the squares cut in half to make the triangles there. And so it's easy peasy. You can make this quilt design with a 3-inch, with the different squares of paper. Like you can make it 2-inch, you can make it 1-inch. Of course, the smaller your squares are, the more papers you're going to need to be able to put this design together. But I like the 3. I feel like it's not too big and it's not too small. Another thing that I did off camera before I started hearing it was I actually inked up the edges of the individual squares in order for it to stand out amongst next to each other. Doesn't show much with the darker papers like the green and the blue, but the ones with the white background, it shows really well, and I like that. This is when I started noticing that the triangles on the edges are not quite straight. And so I'm going to go with this brown paper, and this is going to be my border for the edges. And I'm going to make that seam, part of that is going to overlap onto some of it just so that I can straighten this up a little bit more. And I used the border punch that I had pulled out for this particular kit. I had 2 that I had used, and I made a mistake when I was punching the border. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a part of this particular border that the scallops were cut off. For some reason, I wasn't aligning my borders or my punch very well. And so that's why I have that, but it's okay because I'm going to cover that up later. And this is when I got a little smart and I decided to pull out my T-square ruler so that I can at least make the borders straight, so you wouldn't know that I have made a mistake with the way I had adhered those papers. Now, sorry that my head is in the way. I want to make sure that I am straight now since I made a mistake earlier. So now I'm using this other paper, this pink paper, and this is going to be the matting for my photos. I have 4 photos here, all 3x4s, but 2 that are horizontal in alignment, is that the word? And 2 vertical. Orientation, that's what I was thinking. Anyways, I'm going to use my T-square ruler because I don't want to waste this paper, especially since I'm running low on the cardstock for this particular kit that I pulled out. So I'm going to intentionally adhere these elements in the center so I can gut the paper, cut the inside, and then I could still use the outer edge to make my to make a background, kind of like what I did with the blue paper, but instead of using the edges for my background, I'm actually using the inside of it for now, and then I will use the edges or the frame as my background later. So now I have built my collage for photos. I also added my title. The title is just the tag that says celebrate, but I will add a few more letter stickers here after I'm done with this. Now, as I was looking at this, I'm noticing that some of the diamonds needed to be needed to have some kind of even more emphasis. Okay, so I'm just creating again the lines, and I'm specifically choosing the lightest pattern paper that I have of all of this, the quilt looking papers that I have, just because I know that the black ink will stand out more with those three. And it's also created somewhat of a visual triangle here. Again, the tag will be part of my title, but I will be adding a few more things. And if I were to do this again, I would pick a different letter stickers, but my mistake was that when I had pulled out some letter stickers for this particular kit, that I had pulled out white, and I am mostly not using them because I don't have enough dark papers or dark parts of my layout to put them. They just don't stand out enough if they were put with the lighter papers. So that's one thing to note, that I don't really use white as often as I thought that I would. Anyways, now that I adhered the photo block and then also my typed journaling, I'm going to go ahead and add some details. So a little bit about the photos. These are photos taken in 2020. My son, oldest son, was, he only needed like, I think about like an hour or 2 hours left for his driving here in Colorado. If you're driving student, or if you're student that has a permit is younger than 16, then they would have to complete 60 hours of driving, of course, with their permit and with a parent or a guardian. And so he was building his 60 hours in order for him to take his test and then get his license. And so we had decided that on a Sunday afternoon, we would drive up to a little town called Woodland Park, and it takes about 45 to an hour to drive up there. And so, going there and back, it will take about 2 hours. So that's why we thought that that would be a good thing to do. And then also, it was kind of a good family activity. So we went there, and then we remembered that there was a place called Donut Mill where we liked their donuts. Back then, this is maybe like 5 years ago, they would serve like humongous donuts, like donuts the size of my head. But when we went in 2020, I was a little bit disappointed that their donuts were just regular size now. I don't know, maybe because they were starting to see the writings on the wall and then start making their products smaller so that it will be cheaper. I don't know, but it wasn't the same as before. And so I was kind of disappointed with that. But everybody liked their donuts, and it was a nice reprieve before we drive again back home. And initially, I had thought that maybe I should do some circles with this layout because of the donuts. But honestly, I feel like the diamond shape lends itself with the photo collage. And even though I wanted to play with the shapes of the circle to coincide with the photos, I think it actually makes the photo stand out a little bit more because that shape is not used as much on this layout as the others. And there's still some some curve lines because of the scallop that I used for the border. And as you can see, I added some letter stickers to spell out the ampersand and then donut mill. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is, after I add all of my stickers and embellishments, is that I am going to add my stamping, my date stamp. But I think I'm going to pull out a few more, maybe stickers, word stickers, phrase stickers, to see if there's anything else that I could add, and that's it. One thing that I have to tell you was that the sketch, because it is a scrapbook generation, it was probably created by Allison Davis. That background with all of the quilts, she had sewn or hand stitched all onto the papers. Now, if you are into that, you can definitely do that. But I've said before, I just don't have time for that. It looks cool, but I don't have time for that. So I'm going to skip that detail. But again, if you wanted to add more texture to your page, and if you want to add some subtle elements to it, you can definitely hand stitch through those diamonds. So again, the last little bit pieces I'm going to add will be these enamel dots, and then of course I'm going to stamp my date. Not sure if I'm going to do it on camera, but that will be the final step. Thank you so much for watching. I will have some close-up shots at the end of this video. If this is your first time here, I create scrapbook pages and then once in a while make some card sets as well. If you like those kinds of videos, if you like what you've seen so far and you are not subscribed yet, please do so, and also hit that bell button so that YouTube can notify you when I post a new video. Until then, I will see you guys when I see you. Bye.